Now, there are many people who blame capitalism for being inhumane and destructive. I don't know who said that, but there are some who do believe it. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight, I speak to captains of industry, YPO members, about conscious capitalism. It's a phrase, Bill Gates wrote a book all about it, and it's about doing capitalism, but doing it differently. Joining me from Cape Town this evening, Gareth Ackerman, who is the chairman of Pick and Pay, Riel Malan, who is group managing director of the Unlimited Group, and Nadir Khamissa, who is chief executive officer of Hello Group. Gentlemen, good evening to you. Good evening to you. And Gareth Ackerman, let's start with you. I mean, Pick and Pay has always had this image of being a good corporate citizen, but is that enough in the 21st century in the era of conscious capitalism?
I think what's critical in today's society is that we actually, as business people, get very involved in actually creating jobs, because if it's not for the private sector, we cannot rely on government to create jobs all the time. So it's how do you create jobs and how do you help people out of the desperate straits that a lot of people in the region find themselves in? And I think what we're trying to do within the YPO group is to help our executives and members of the organization to actually grow their businesses, employ more people, and actually help grow the economy in the area. And it's not only about making profits, it's about doing good in society as a whole. And that's what we as a business have concentrated on for the last 40-odd years.
But then businesses like yours, Gareth, big businesses, get accused of being big, bad, dirty corporates. I mean, one looks at the number of companies that pay most of the tax in South Africa. Something like 0.01% of registered companies pay something like 70% of the corporate taxes in South Africa. Is there an adequate appreciation of what corporate South Africa actually does do?
Well, probably not. I think people see businesses as big, faceless monster, but in fact it's the engine that drives the growth in the economy. We generate the growth, we generate the taxes. As retailers, we collect most of the VAT for the government anyway, and we create a lot of value in terms of the growth that we sell. So if it wasn't for business, the countries wouldn't be able to survive, government wouldn't be able to have the money to provide the social welfare, to provide the benefits that general society expects from it. And it can only be done from a tax base, and that tax base can only come from a strong and vibrant economy, which we need. Unfortunately, at the moment in the region, we aren't seeing that strong, vibrant economy, and we're seeing a slowdown, and the government's not getting the revenue that it requires to help grow the economy.
And all it does then, Riel Malan, is ups the tax rate, because that's what governments do in a tight situation. I mean, I ask the question in all seriousness as to whether or not you feel appreciated. I wrote a column recently, which said you've got to hug a taxpayer. They're an endangered species. But half the registered companies in South Africa don't pay any tax. They're assessed losses, or maybe they break even. I mean, we've got a tax crisis in South Africa.
Yeah, look, I mean, it depends, I suppose, on your definition of a crisis. But I mean, I think as a taxpayer, often not feeling appreciated and specifically not always getting the bang for your tax buck, I think is on everybody's mind at the moment. Especially looking at the legal framework, looking at the rule of law sometimes. So I think that's very relevant.
Okay, so when it comes to then this whole thing of conscious capitalism, doing more than your due, giving unto Caesar what is due unto Caesar, what is your interpretation of what this conscious capitalism means? Is it the Ayn Rand approach, and that is that your job is to make the most profit possible, pay your bit and carry on making profits? Or is it a slightly softened perspective?
Well, I think, the concept of conscious capitalism around knowing that whatever we do as corporate citizens leaves a fingerprint on whether it's society or whether it's the environment. And by doing good business, I think that is, at the end of the day, what a good corporate citizen is looking to do.
Nadir Khamissa, what is doing good business? I mean, doing good business is making a profit, right? I mean, but doing business well and doing good business and doing good business properly, yes, are three different things.
Yes, look, I mean, I think our perspective at the Hello Group is actually quite unique in the sense that we believe that doing good business, of course, profitability is, par for the course, but profitability is necessary but not sufficient in our opinion. And the entire philosophy of what we're trying to build here is that the technology, internet-based technology and mobile technology has evolved to a level where it is now possible to demarginalize hundreds of millions of people at the base of the pyramid by bringing services to them that were historically only available
you're
to high
speaking a
income.
language I haven't. I've lost touch. You started speaking an ancient, newfangled language.
Okay.
So, what are you saying in terms of conscious capitalism? How do you change the way in which you do business to affect more people positively?
We do things like using technology to make amazing products and services available to people at the base of the pyramid. So I'll give you
But that's just doing business. That's not conscious capitalism in the real sense, is it? I mean, conscious capitalism is being nice to people, doing soup kitchens, creating more jobs. All he's doing is doing more business.
Look, I don't think, and you have to be able to do business in order to actually generate the profits, to be a good corporate citizen, to be able to plow back into the community. So what is being a good
corporate citizen? Please answer me that question.
Look, I mean, it depends. It's very, in my mind, it varies from sector to sector. I think depending on which sector you're in, you're obviously touching, whether you're touching the environment, whether you're touching the workforce, whether you're touching the consumer. I mean, in our industry, we are very dependent on a healthy environment, as an example. So making sure that the environment is looked after, whether it is through our policies in terms of sourcing product, in terms of how we produce, in terms of how we package it. Are we going to continue to generate mountains of packaging in packing the product that we are putting into the retailers? Those kinds of questions, I think, is very sectorial and specific.
I mean, corporate citizenship, though, is bigger than doing business and making profit. Corporate citizenship is having a role in society. What is your role in society?
Which is exactly what I was trying to say earlier, is that I don't believe that business should be make money and then make money with one hand and give charity or be a good corporate citizen with the other. To me, they go hand in hand. And I believe that a lot of the problems that people face at the base of the pyramid are soluble with technology, right? Mm-hmm. And I believe that the only model that's going to break down these barriers and provide sustainable solutions is a for-profit model, whereby you build businesses that include people. For example, financial inclusion. What we're doing with mobile money, cross-border payments today is revolutionary. It has a profoundly positive impact on people's lives, the consumers' lives. We're employing tens of thousands of people who are merchants and distributors of these services. So we're actually creating some sort of economy within the informal market, serving customers within the informal market, and in many ways taking business away from the corporate giants and putting that in the hands of spaza shops and street vendors.
Gareth Ackerman in Cape Town, is it enough though in the corporate in the world where trade unionism is very active, where the economic freedom fighters, for example, use corporate South Africa as the whipping boy of evil, as the great exploiter of the South African worker, to be doing business and doing business better and to creating new opportunities for entrepreneurs in an environment where there is so much abject poverty and real need on a daily basis?
I think, Bruce, that's a very complex, broad question, but to answer it by referring back to the previous discussion, I think we've always taken the philosophy in the Pick and Pay group that rich people love low prices, poor people need low prices. And if you look at what's happening, and Nadir was talking about the products, if you can get product into the poorest end of the community, which cuts their cost of living, cuts their cost of surviving on a day-to-day basis, it gives people more money to spend on other areas and helps through the multiplier effect grow the economy. The second part of your question, which I think is an important one, is that we're seeing a lot of change in South Africa politically, and the change in the union movement and the change in the way organizations such as EFF are coming to market, and the fact that they're attracting 30 to 40,000 people to attend a march during a business day is difficult in that those people are largely unemployed. And the fact that they can come and do marches is the fact that they actually haven't got jobs that they need to go to. So it's absolutely critical in society today that we find a way of creating jobs. If you look at this morning's newspaper, they're talking about so many manufacturing businesses going to cut jobs over the next year. We must actually look at ways of actually increasing that opportunity to invest more as business into this country so we can actually grow the base. I think if you look at the mining industry, they've shed almost 80% of their jobs in about the last 10 to 15 years. It's a fraction of the size of an employer that it was a couple of years ago. And we've got to create new industries that do it. And agriculture is one. And how do we get more people onto the land? How do we get more people into the food supply chain, into the region? I think these are issues that we need to look at. And I think we as a company, and hopefully as YPO members, we are addressing this and bringing more people into the net.
Nadir, I mean, it's about being seen to do good. You can be doing good, but if nobody sees you doing good, then you're held up as dirty big business. How do you get seen to do more good? How do you get noticed for doing more good? Maybe that's the point.
Perhaps that is the point. I mean, from our perspective, we've never been focused on being seen to be good, right? So perhaps I'm not the best person to talk to that point. But what I can say is, within the communities at the base of the pyramid, those are the people who we really care about, and those are the people who it's important to us that we appreciate.
Do they know?
Absolutely. I mean, to put it into perspective, our distribution business today, we have 45,000 registered street vendors, 13,000 spaza shops on our platform who are distributing telecom services, financial services within their micro communities, right? So if you go into any township in the country, these are thousands of people who are earning income using technology that was historically not available to them.
There we go. Real, I mean, perhaps big business has simply got to get better at its own PR.
Well, maybe. I think it's, we have a business-to-business type operation. So for us, it really is a philosophy of trying to have a positive social and environmental impact. We obviously have a huge impact on our workforce, which again, I think there is a culture of passing on a specific philosophy. So yeah, it depends, I think, on what your profile in your specific part of society is.
It certainly is a tricky one. Gareth Ackerman, the chairman of Pick n Pay Holdings, Riel Malan, who's the group managing director of the Unlimited Group, and Nadir Khamissa, chief executive officer of Hello Group, all doing things within their sphere of influence. But business, big business in particular, is regarded as the bad guy in some circles. Perhaps what big business needs to do is do good PR on what it does achieve in making South Africa a better place in which to live. Conscious capitalism or not, we need to do some PR on that. Thank you for watching. There'll be more tales of good capitalism and hopefully a couple of bad capitalists, because they're also fun to interview tomorrow. Good night.